Speaking of conversations, G. Bush had an enlightening conversation with Deion Sanders last week on the Barbershop. G, it's the first time you've been on since that interview, so congrats on landing Primetime. That was terrific.
Yeah, appreciate it.
In that interview, Primetime touched on a number of topics, including this one that I thought was pretty interesting. Deion says he's not met with Todd Monken yet, but would like to. Let's take a listen.
And I love him, man, because he's a straight shooter. He keeps it a buck. See, all these little side conversations and side relationships that was had before him, he ain't with that. Like now, he into the now. Let's do now. Quit asking me that bullshit. That's really what he wants to say. Quit asking me that bullshit, man. I ain't got time for that. What's up? That's how he get down, and I love it. And we know him. I was supposed to go actually next week, but I got to shoot a commercial to Cleveland to meet him because I want to meet him because I think it's vital that as a coach, not the dad, I could tell him a few things about grown, how to get him going. That wasn't asked of me a year ago. I don't understand it. Like even a guy like Travis Hunter being drafted to Jacksonville, and I've had him for the last 3. Don't you think you would want to talk to me to let me know, to ask me what gets him going and what backs him off and what, like, you would want to know that. So I anticipate and I can't wait to have that conversation with Coach Monken.
Guys, what do you think about Deion saying he wants to meet with Coach Monken about how to coach his son, Shedeur, who he calls grown? That's who he was referring to when he mentioned grown. G, let's start with you because you were the one conducting the interview on the Barbershop. And everyone, if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
What I wanted to do, first and foremost, is get him to speak candidly on the way he feels about a lot of different things. And so the goal of the interview was just to give him a runway and to express what he thought. And I think this question came up when I asked him, hey, have you met with Todd Monken? Your thoughts on Todd Monken? We asked about the quarterback battle. And he went on to say, look, man, he loves Todd Monken. He believes he's a straight shooter. He says that the communication styles work a lot the same way. They're guys that usually tell it just like it is. Just, hey, man, listen. And that's the cool thing about Todd Monken, as you can see during his thought process as he's been out here out front. It's been refreshing because Todd Monken is just telling you what it is. He just feel a certain way. He'll say it and then keep it pushing. I think more than anything, I think what Coach Prime wanted to get across is, a lot of times when he's interacting with people and coaches, I think people get it in their mind of him as the personality and him as the father. But I had an opportunity to talk to him about 20 minutes just on straight football. And that was cool, just talking about ball. And the thing he said is like, hey, man, I would like to talk to him on the level of, hey, all coaches and college coaches, when you're scouting somebody, the college coach, they reach out to the scouting department, they reach out to the head coach. Hey, they even go back to talk to your high school coach sometimes to see who you are, to see what makes you tick. And he said something very interesting. He said, when it comes to Shedeur, I've coached him before, and I'm as tough on him as a lot of people are. So he's not going to do everything correctly, and that's not what the game is. However, I can let him know, hey, this worked in certain circumstances. Hey, he likes to do this in certain circumstances, and just overall talk football. So I think the thing I came away with was that Coach Prime wasn't, coming from a perspective where, hey, I'm going to tell you how to coach my kid. Now, he just, as a football player, as a Hall of Famer, as a person who's played at a high level, he feels that he can add some different things and give him a different perspective because Coach Monken has not been around Shedeur. He has not been around him, and he's a new head coach. So, and I think actually, to be truthful, he said they have a great relationship. They already had the meeting scheduled. So I think they'll eventually meet, and I think Todd Monken is a coach who is a straight enough shooter and understands and is down to earth. He's definitely going to have a conversation, and I don't think it's too much to do about anything.
We've had in Cleveland what I guess we would label it dad drama. We've had that here with Odell Beckham a couple of years ago. That got sideways real quick. That did not go well. Now, Odell Beckham's dad was not the greatest cover corner in the history of the game.
Yeah, no, I don't know what Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad does.
I imagine he was an athlete himself.
He's pretty good at something. I don't know what he did, but he's not.
What we did see is dad insert himself, and the whole thing was like TNT. It was a keg of dynamite. And that was that. And that iteration of the Browns was blown to smithereens. And we know how that worked out. This one's tricky because, like, if it's an X and O standpoint, like from a football standpoint, Deion Sanders has much more cachet than the average player's dad. But on the surface, to me, it just looks like Deion trying to insert himself into the Browns circle because he is the parent of one of the players. And I don't know if Todd Monken's going to take a meeting with him. I don't know if you've heard anything, if he's likely to sit down and talk with him. I don't know. I do know this, that he can't sit down and talk to everyone's dad. One of the toughest things about coaching Little League Baseball, you know this, is that everyone's parent wants your ear. Mm-hmm. Hey, my kid got 9 ground balls in a row. We take ground balls every day in the backyard, and I hit 9, and they're pretty hard. And I hit 9 to him, and he made every one 9. Now, I think he should be your starting shortstop. You don't need that. You try to look at it, evaluate every kid on their own merits. You don't need parents bending your ear telling you that their kid's going to be, the next great player. So I just think when I talked about the Deion Sanders draft, the Shedeur Sanders draft situation, I said, you got to be careful here because if you draft Shedeur, you're kind of drafting the circus. And this is what I meant by drafting the circus. We saw the media craze that he brought to town with him. We see, and I think that everybody would agree with this, there's been a fracturing of the fan base. You're either pro Shedeur or against, and it's not pro Browns or against. It's you have to. It's just been a divisive factor in the team, and I just think it's a bad look on Deion to say that publicly. I really want to talk to the coach about my son, and I don't know. Maybe Todd will want to say, "Hey, I got to listen to this guy. He's not your average dad. He does know a little bit about football." All of that being said, I think there was a report out over the weekend, and we're going to talk about this in the second hour, that someone is claiming that Deshaun Watson is now being referred to as the heavy favorite to be the starter, the week 1 starter.
Vegas odds.
But also wasn't there a report?
Jeremy Fowler said he's hit it off with Monken. Yeah.
So according to Jeremy Fowler, Watson is the heavy favorite to be the starter now. And the same thing with Vegas. If you want to bet on these sort of things and throw your money away, go ahead. But right now the line in Vegas is that Deshaun Watson is going to be the starter. So we're talking about Todd Monken taking time out of his day coaching the team to talk to potentially the backup quarterback's dad. Like, it's just not the way things are typically done.
Let me give you this tidbit. So his entire coaching staff was supposed to come up and go meet with different people. They do that every single year.
And there's value in that, by the way, and I know a lot of college coaches do that.
And so
if it's on that, I'm fine with that.
So, but also he was invited by Todd. It wasn't like he just emailed him and said, "Hey, let me pull up on you and let me tell you about my kid." Like, he had a relationship and he already invited him in. He said he couldn't do the interview because he had something else, a previous game.
Commercial, right?
But he's going to eventually meet with him. And I think the thing that stands out a little bit, and I didn't even expect this during the interview. When I mentioned Todd Monken, and when I mentioned Andrew Berry, and when I mentioned Jimmy Haslam, he went on out of his way to say that he has the utmost respect for Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam, and he was very reverent in terms of saying that Andrew Berry, has always told him, hey, the competition is going to be fair and right down the middle. He also told him he calls him Mr. Berry because, despite whatever people think, is he believes and he's always indebted to Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry because he gave his son an opportunity when a lot of people didn't. And he said, that means a lot to him. So I think from his perspective, I think he has enough respect and tact to be able to have a conversation.
You know what I would have liked, G? And I don't know if this could ever happen because he's Deion Sanders. If he's spotted in the Cleveland airport, like, I don't know that he would fly commercial, but if he's spotted here, it's going to be a story. People are going to tweet out pictures. Deion's in the airport. What I would love is, I do think there could be some real value in that on both sides. I think Monken can learn something from Deion because Deion knows the game and he knows his son. But I just feel like maybe that would be best behind closed doors, not known to the public, because it does open that both sides open themselves up to criticism of a meeting like that is public.
Well, here's the thing that I think has been missed on this. Number one, remember when Todd first got the job and there was like a 10-second social media clip? The first thing the Browns did is they put out a clip of Shedeur going in Todd's office and Todd dapping him up. And it doesn't matter how Todd...
But the optics of that...
That's exactly it. It doesn't matter how Todd views Shedeur. It matters that the Browns learned from last season, and now they understand the power and the reach of Deion and that entire family. And so the first thing they did was they said, hey, look, the coach likes them. Because there was so much stupidity out there last year over how this thing went because they couldn't get a hold of it. The Browns couldn't get a hold of it. So it's good business. It doesn't matter. It's good business for the Browns to say, hey, Deion, come on, have a conversation. I don't think you can separate head coach from dad. I think it's impossible. I coach my kid.
No, it is very difficult.
You can't.
It is very difficult.
You're still dad. Ultimately, you're dad before you're coach.
Yep.
So you could say whatever you want. You can't separate the two. But it doesn't matter. What matters is the power and the influence that Deion has over so many people. And so to let him have the opportunity to express whatever he wants to express to Todd and the Browns, you start things off on the good side. It's just like that 10-second social media clip. And also, this is the part I think people are missing. It's a two-way conversation. So if Todd is as blunt, as direct as everyone says he is, Todd can tell Deion, hey, listen, this is where he's short. This is where he's missing because they've spent quite a bit of time together now. They don't have a game together in the field. They've been together in that building for quite a while now. So Todd can tell Deion, this is what you're missing. This is what he's not doing. This is where he needs to catch up.
I know, but that is a conduit in most player-coach relationships that doesn't need to exist. Normally, the coach goes to the play. I know it's not normal, and that's part of my point. Part of my point is for the Browns organization to welcome this on, they're not the best organization suited to deal with this.
I've said that from the beginning.
And that was my biggest problem with it. There were so many other organizations that could have dealt with this so much better.
And one of them tried to take them, and the family told them no.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that might have been a better situation for him. But obviously, he's indebted to the Browns because they were the ones that ultimately pulled his card and called his name. But the Browns and their infrastructure and their lack of being able to deal with these kind of things successfully, I thought handicapped the whole thing from jump. Now we're going to throw another wild drama bomb into the mix, and let's see how this works out.
I actually think if you look at it, maybe they weren't equipped. Communication styles work differently. I think that Todd Monken's communication style, from everything that I've seen on interviews, when they asked him, when Anthony Lima and King Carmen asked him and say, hey, what do you think about the whole comments and everything, and do you have to kind of calm some of that down? He said, man, listen, man, it's about winning. Like, if you want people to have outside noise and get it stopped, win.
That's it.
To be honest with you, the reason why we get paid so much is because you guys do cover every single little small story. I think Todd Monken, the way he's built like an alpha male, and he's built like a person he's confident in who he is as a coach. So for him, it's nothing to have a conversation with another great player. It's the same way if Arch Manning, right? If Arch Manning is the number one pick, you sure as hell gonna have a conversation with Peyton or Eli. Or his grandfather. That's just gonna happen. That's part of the game. You see what I'm saying? Like it should. And by the way, I would want to have that conversation.
The difference to me,
they play that position.
Yeah, but beyond that, if you're taking, you said Arch, we'll use Arch. If you're taking Arch in the first round, you're taking him to be the starting quarterback. Shedeur was never supposed to be the starting quarterback last year.
Yeah,
he was fourth on the depth chart. He was. They made it clear.
If Shedeur was a defensive back, and they wanted to talk to Deion about his prowess as a defensive back and what his shortcomings are, but it's clearly a different position. I like your analogy, I do, because when you put it that way, hell yeah, I want to talk to Peyton. And I want to talk, even though they're just the uncles.
And by the way, it's a little different on the other side because he's his college coach. So
is Mike McCarthy calling James Franklin to ask how to coach Drew Aller?
No.
I mean, but if I was Mike McCarthy, would I ask him, hey, listen, what are some things that you guys did offensively? What do you think his shortcomings are? What do you think he can get better?
But
What did he
Aller's third
struggle
on the
with?
depth chart.
Well,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. We always talk about the due diligence. For me, if I'm a football guy, I got all the time in the world to talk football with somebody.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just a conversation.
That's a fair point. It is a fair point, and I think I would have been okay with it if it hadn't been public. I just don't think. I think that's more food for the machine to chew on. That we don't really even need to know about that.
But you're going to know about everything.
What if they did a Zoom? And neither of them opened their mouths about it. You could still have the same transfer of information. You can still learn a little bit
because
about
everything gets out.
Well,
Everything
not
gets
if
out.
either of those two
Right.
talk. If it's just those two
if it-
and they keep a lid on it, then no one knows. We never. I promise you this.
Oh, there's
you
a
know
lot of
this.
stuff that never gets out.
There's a lot of
Yes,
stuff that happens that we
100%.
don't find out about.
Yes, of
and
course.
I think the best teams are the ones that keep that stuff
But
behind the iron curtain.
what of the Sanders family do they try and keep private?
Well, it's you got one reality show and another reality show, and you've put them together.
I will say that the thing I've learned from having a conversation is you are correct. They are who they are, unapologetic.
they're not changing.
And
And hey, I don't blame them.
And that ain't changing.
worked for Pops.
I would like to know if next time y'all talk to Todd Monken, ask him the question. Hey man, you meet with Prime yet?